Like, I had no time.
And we just confirmed that.
I just think, yeah.
The beanery was at the Traineeville.
I think what we're gonna get for that pay versus
That's what she's,
what we want for that pay are two very different things.
Yeah, and again, open to suggestions
she was
on
looking at
how
Holly
to,
Smith's website when they did some renovation.
The beanery was at the Traineeville, was not Ashley.
I don't know, and I'm not, again, I'm
You
not,
can. Yes.
so burnt out that
Please
I don't
do.
even know, like,
Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna talk to Will about it and then I'm either gonna kill it with her or not because I don't wanna like drag her
do
out
send
and
me,
like,
her, the information on her business, because again, I just was not.
yeah. I just don't wanna burn that
Some of the
bridge.
things that, yeah, well, some of the things just didn't make sense
Yeah.
to me, and so I was like, I don't know.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't want to continue to question her and then her defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hamlet, yes.
And she, I don't know how much, I can't remember what she said in the meeting with you versus before you were there. But she was just explaining to me that like,
No idea.
centers don't really survive if you don't fundraise a certain way.
Well, sure. I'm like, you give us no time.
Because we talked about that too.
I know she was saying the structure that she's doing is a more successful structure.
Which is just like outsourcing all the fundraising?
I think so.
Because that's what I was trying to get, and I was like.
With the
'cause we've
percentage,
talked
the
about
percent,
this.
the 8%.
We've talked about like outsourcing that, if anybody knows of any like, you know,
He's always been fascinated with the.
you know, anybody that would have any like
He's got lots of camp.
recommendations for like, just out, like hiring someone to just do the fundraising.
Yeah. She told me every time she's seen it in-house, it fails. And so I
I
was
mean, the
like,
just like,
Thank you. Oh, I thought I had my feather ones on.
that is a cute.
I think it's a feather with on
I've worn them a lot. Maybe I
Louisiana
did.
Children's Museum, the one in Gulfport.
But a friend of mine makes leather feathers.
Really?
Yeah.
I've
And I wanted
I've
to
never really-
ask
I was
where you
like,
got
sure, just
those
whatever we need to
because they're very
survive, but
similar.
Yeah.
All of those
Actually, Mandeville
have
in-house.
Cute.
like in Mandeville,
It's
like
crawfish
yeah,
boil,
well,
right?
It's interesting. She
Yeah.
said New Orleans
Crawfish
didn't.
friends
So
that
I'm
actually
gonna
sell
look
them.
into
Like,
that.
great
Yeah,
stuff,
please,
earrings,
like,
and
Cause she
stuff.
said,
Those are kind of cute.
she told me New
Yeah.
Orleans and Baton Rouge
Yeah.
fundraised
I don't know anything
based
about
on,
Baton Rouge.
she said Baton Rouge was totally political, but
Yeah, and I believe
Called
that.
Michael's today because we're doing,
Crawfish Saturday.
yeah,
Yeah.
Is it?
Are we waiting on Cassie?
1 to 4.
So Cassie is on her way. We can
Come
get
by.
started.
Alright, 7 to 1.
Yeah, it's a long
Because I still don't know. It'll be my only window.
Yeah, to decompress. Yeah. we-
All right, we can go ahead and call our meeting to order. Audience today. This is the May 17th, 2023 DDD Board of Directors. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Todd DeLon,
Here.
John Exnicius, Elizabeth Hollywood,
Here.
Chelsea Kesnick,
Here.
Kaylee Norton,
Here.
Cassie Reagan, Evan Singer.
Here.
All right, old business, approval of the April 2023 financial report. And I see that I know we had a long discussion last month about how our financial information is presented and, being able to, maybe changing the format so that we as a board and the public could digest it better. So it looks like there was a little bit of a change of the format. Michelle or Evan, do y'all want to, just
Yes.
anything you want to point about that?
Sure. So, yeah, Michelle and I have been kind of on a journey to simplify things, not just for ourselves, but just for everybody. The goal is most anyone should be able to look at this information and see pretty quickly what's going on. That's our goal. And if you recall the financial statements, they were like 5 different pages, and you kind of, like, they were
Right.
different formats and stuff. So in this, our balance sheet is 1 page. That's the first page you see in here. And then the income statement is 2 pages. And we've simplified all the different columns, so now we have the month-to-date, year-to-date, and our budget. So you can, we've removed, I think there are probably 6 different columns within, so that's it. I mean, this is a draft, it's, it's subject to change, but we just wanted it here for everyone's consideration on what y'all think. Michelle?
Yeah, so working with Mr. Daniel's office to just kind of simplify it a little bit, that the format that we've had has basically been the format. I think
Right.
We have been contracting with them, so just in an effort to have a more simplified view of things. So you can also kind of see a little bit more easily our monthly transactions with the month-to-date column. So you can kind of see like some of our regular expenses. Obviously, you don't see an itemization there, but you can kind of see like what accounts we're kind of pulling out of more often. One thing I do want to note is for our loans, Wonder Collective has paid off their loan. That's why you see basically no amount there on the balance sheet. So they paid their loan off early. So that will be removed probably for the next report. You won't see them reflected on there. And there's still some cleaning that we need to do with some of our revenue and expense items. Just there's some really old accounts, and like if you look at the revenue, you'll see like Green Habitat Project revenue. That was probably from like 2014. So we need to do some of that cleaning still, but this is where we simplified for now.
Yeah, I think this certainly is better, more easily digestible to be able to understand exactly just the revenue and our expenses and where the money's coming from and where it's going. Any other questions, comments about the financial report?
Michelle, page 3, was this always broken out like as a separate section? Was this always a part of the, I guess, the income statement?
So it looks like this is something I'm still trying to figure out with and how our accounts are invested. Basically, since we're housed within the city, a portion of our fund balance is invested in a total package that the city invests, and so we get separate interests allocated to us on a monthly basis. And so it looks like for our loan, so the third page is just for our loan fund. So this captures the interest that we have collected on our loans, and then the separate investments that we have for our loan fund. So basically, the second page is our income for our general fund, which is the budget, our annual budget. So that's kind of our regular operating expenses, and our loan fund just has these, is broken out separately that way.
And the interest earnings on the, I guess, page 2, how are those different than the interest income on loans on page 3?
Since they're two separate accounts,
Okay.
they're separate investments.
So this is this one, page 2 is the general fund
Yes.
income, and page 3 is just our revolving loans, real estate loans, all our loan
They're
income.
two separate accounts.
Yep.
So like our fund account is 207
Yeah,
and our
so
loan fund is 259.
This is the income on these.
So it probably makes
Yeah.
sense to leave these separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the financials.
I move we approve.
Second.
Todd Milon,
Yes.
John Exnicius, Elizabeth Hollywood,
Yes.
Chelsea Kesnick,
Yes.
Kaylee Norton,
Yes.
Cassie Reagan,
Yes.
Evan Singer.
Yes.
All right, next up, approval of the meeting minutes from April 19th, 2023. Those are in your packet, if anyone wants to review.
I make a motion, we approve.
Second?
Todd DeLon,
Yes.
John Exnicius, Elizabeth Hollywood,
Yes.
Chelsea Kesnick,
Yes.
Kaylee Norton,
Yes.
Cassie Reagan,
Yes.
Evan Singer.
Yes.
Okay. New business. Discussion of DDD fund balance. I think that's the spreadsheet, and Kaylee and I were kind of discussing this a little bit, and Evan, right before the meeting. So, Michelle, do you want to take the lead on this, or Evan? Michelle?
Yeah, so one conversation I think Evan and I have had over time is really just understanding what money we have. So that we're not only planning financially for how we're best utilizing our funds, but Also looking to see like how these accounts have fluctuated over time. So basically what you have here is a summary of our general fund, so our general fund balance. So this is basically our savings account. So I went ahead and pulled a history back to 2016 because prior to that year, I guess the records would have taken more time to reconcile for accuracy. So basically we have a history through 2016, so you can kind of see the start, the year net activity, and then the balance at the end of the year with anything with a negative, with a larger negative than proposed. You can kind of see where we've financed that for some projects. So in talking with Evan, basically he just kind of wanted to have us have a baseline of where our fund balance is and how long it has taken us to accrue and what our budget kind of, how it operates basically every year, which you can see we basically historically we've over budgeted unless we are dedicating funds to a capital project like the Hanson Crossing, the Southwest Road Lighting Project, which happened in 2017, 2021 with the Railroad Park Project, and then the reasoning for the deficit proposed for fiscal year 2024 is due to the welcome sign project that we are basically pulling out of our fund balance to complete.
So the fund balance historically, that's where the property taxes that we have on DD property, that's where that money goes every year. Is that correct? Is that where the fund balance?
No, so
Okay.
basically, we get, the taxes are our revenue every year.
Right.
So we get several checks, 12 checks a year, and we deposit those into our account. We project for this upcoming fiscal year that we'll get around $330,000. Our fund balance is basically after all is said and done at a fiscal year, anything that we have left over rolls into that balance.
Automatically, or do we, I mean, I don't remember if ever been taking action to do that, so I guess.
Yeah, so this basically is our savings account. So
Okay.
if we do not spend funds, including all of our revenues, so it's property taxes,
Fundraising. whatever,
fundraising with
yeah.
our events, farmers
Yep.
market revenue.
Or, say, I know we just talked about having two separate accounts, but like the the revenue, like any income from the loans, like,
So I also have a
Interest.
fund balance history for our loan, which
Okay.
I've provided for that discussion in just a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, they're two separate
Yeah, I have
accounts.
it.
So this
Yep.
is basically our savings for just our general operating.
okay.
So when we're thinking about projects that we want to do, financing for those, budgeting for those, we have around $300,000 that we have sitting in our account, and we just want to make sure that we're comfortable with having maybe a portion of that for our rainy day fund, a savings, to cover our general operating if something were to happen where we didn't have revenue, which would be unlikely. But I think in the conversation that Evan and I had is how low we would be comfortable going and what portion of that we would want to invest and what we're earmarking that for in terms of our priorities.
Well, and that's my question too. Like, what is the benchmark on either side? Like, what's the max that's ideal, and then what's the lowest?
So whenever we talked about our upcoming budget last year, last
month.
meeting, it's recommended that any general government have at least 2 months of operating expenses in a rainy day fund or a savings account. And so that is roughly 40,000 for us because 20,000 is between payroll and our annual contracts or monthly contracts. It's around 20,000 a month. And so if we use that measure by good government financing metrics, 2 months is kind of what is a goal, but if we wanted to say 6 months was more ideal for us, if we felt more comfortable with that,
Right.
or you could easily say, well, 5 months would be $100,000, then, you just kind of do the math from there. So, but a minimum of 2 months is kind of what this would be.
Because I guess I'm just looking at it, it's obviously like depleted significantly since 2016, but based on those terms, we're still in excellent standing, so.
Yeah. And I like to think about too, is that, look at what we have done with this money in the past several years. I mean, we have this incredible railroad park now. I mean, these are taxpayer dollars, so obviously we need to be responsible with them, but we also don't need $1 million sitting in an account that we're not doing anything
Yeah.
with. So, I certainly think that we, it's weighing those
And
things.
it's not itemized, but the money that we're spending every year, we're doing those matching or shared costs on the sidewalk improvements.
Yep.
We've been working on bringing the trees back up to speed. So we have done some capital things.
Projects, yep.
Over the last 5 or 6 years, and that costs money, but it's also an investment in downtown. If we don't continue to put dollars back into it and improve it, not just keep it status quo,
Yeah.
I don't think we're doing our job. That's part of attracting people to downtown.
Well, I guess too, I don't know if this is the right time to ask, but I was curious about the lights that we have on top of the buildings. Like, some of them are out and non-functioning. So, like, could this be utilized for that, or how does that work?
I think that would be our decision, absolutely, yeah. I know that was the original, when that was originally done, and this was many, many years ago.
Yeah.
It was a DDD project.
A CBD. We
Before
were
it
the
was a
Central
DDD.
Business District.
Yeah.
And we
So even
had
before the DDD.
keg parties to raise money to do that.
I love that
Yeah.
history lesson.
Yeah.
You always get money.
No, I love
Because
it.
I haven't been around longer than any of you. Well, maybe not
Yeah.
Todd, but I don't know. Anyway, but then once CBD or DDD paid to kind of get it started, then the building owners took that on
They took it on.
individually.
Do we
So
match
maintain it.
anything, or is it
we
strictly?
haven't done anything about that in a really long time. It might be time to take a look at it again.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
But you have
Yeah.
to, I mean, thinking about it, if you do it for one, you have to be prepared to do it for
Right.
everyone.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think when initially we tried to hit the four corners. Thomas and Kate and Railroad and Thomas.
Yeah,
And then just to get it started.
yeah.
So maybe it becomes part of a facade grant or
I
something.
know, yeah, something.
I don't know, it's
Even
not that
just, like,
expensive.
To be proactive and just having someone checking and
I mean, the
replacing
facade grant
as it
already
Yeah.
covers lighting, so I think it just hasn't come up with someone asking us directly if that would be considered a facade improvement.
The fire department went out in the last 8 years and did I don't know if they went and changed out light bulbs for us, or but they went to the buildings that had lights and did something. It's been a long time, I can't remember exactly what it
should
was.
resurrect that.
Be a good, like, Christmas, I think they
Yeah.
started in Christmas time.
I guess the last item I'll kind of say is, since I couldn't go back past 2016, my assumption is that since we have a pretty hefty savings here, at the end of that fiscal year, that was probably 26 years worth of savings since our program was funded, or probably in the mid-'80s, so it was nearly 30 years of savings to get to that point. So just for some perspective, I haven't had the chance to go and look through everything, but that's what my assumption is. And as we
A long time.
as we do a better job and we see property values increase, then we wind up having more for our program. So it was really interesting looking back at some of our old budgets with like $30,000 was our like annual budget. I was actually helping Jeffrey pull some information for a presentation, and I happened across it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, we just want to be deliberate with our
Absolutely.
decisions and see how long it take. Like, there's some years all we made was $20,000. I mean, it takes a long time to build this up, so.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I was getting at too. It's like we've declined significantly, and how long would we need to be back at that point if that was the optimal goal?
But to add to what Cassie said,
a taxpayer wants to see things.
Yeah.
They're spending money on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want to see us with
I love the lighting
900,000.
down the street.
Yeah.
The railroad station's fantastic. The welcome sign's gonna be amazing. The taxpayer wants to see
Yeah.
that their money's being utilized for something constructive and/or aesthetically pleasing, yeah.
Yep. All right, any other discussion on the fund balance? All right, discussion of DDD loan program and application. Again, Michelle or Evan, we're relying very heavily on the two of you this meeting.
I'll kick
all
us
the work.
off, and then Evan can kind of tag team. So, what you have in your packet is our existing application, and then a really quickly, roughly revised application with some of Evan's edits, and then also our loan fund balance history, also going back through 2016. So I think over time, our loan program has evolved in some ways where we've like made tweaks or have revised the application. But I think in terms of simplicity and feasibility, you know, when this program was initially created, it was funded in part by USDA grant. That was like the seed funding for this account. And based upon what I can find, we're no longer required to report to USDA. It seems that we're no longer tied to them for any reason. So this fund that we have, our loan fund, is, like I said, separate from our general fund. This is basically our ability to loan in the way that we would like to. Some of the original standards were set by USDA requirements. So, like if you look at some things, like on the checklist, for example, it says we would have to have people sign an assurance agreement, RD 400-4 for USDA grant funds. You know, we don't have anyone from USDA coming and knocking on our door asking us for any reports. I mean, we haven't had that in 10 years or roughly 10 years. And so that's still something that I think Evan was trying to talk to Eric about, since Eric was on for quite some time.
Like, are they supposed to be and they just haven't? Or, you know, like that's,
Better knock
yeah,
on some
okay.
wood.
Yeah.
I guess the changes we've talked about in here wouldn't, I mean, it wouldn't go against anything the USDA does. Like, these are just sound
yeah.
processes we're proposing to simplify things. So if the USDA were to show up one day and say, hey, show us, this wouldn't be an
Yeah,
issue.
okay.
Can you guys kind of like overview just the changes for us?
Yeah, so this is sort of like the financial state, it's about simplicity. And sometimes by asking for less, you can get a lot more. You know, if you have a 20-page loan application, our concern was, I mean, I work at a bank, and it was kind of overwhelming to me to look at. I know, Cal, you had an experience with, so we were just like, how can we simplify this to make it easier for people to omit? We want to remove just some things that just were not being done. Like, it went into this whole procedural thing that wasn't really happening. So it was just about simplifying. That there's a version in here, I think pages, let's see here, the first group, look at the page. Pages 1, it says revolving loan program 1 through 10 is the existing application as it is today. And then Michelle has the DDD loan fund balance history. And then the next page 1, DDD loan program, is just my proposed revisions. And there's no pride of authorship to this. It's a draft we're submitting to you all for, you know, for your review and approval. If you want to change something in here, it's totally fine. It's, but this was just our attempt at making it simpler. And,
There's no major changes to like the actual funding agreement or term, or like the Are there changes to anything of that?
Yeah, forgive me, the bank room, I couldn't help it but increase the rates, so.
We're gonna discuss
That's,
that. Yeah,
but,
we're gonna discuss that.
Well, I mean, when you look at the financial data, we have $300,000 out in, or $300-some thousand out in loans, and we've made like $4,500 on that. I mean, that's,
Oh, yeah, so is
that's-
this, do we not make any, how do we have no net activity in 2022? Like, this was the loan is
What is the DDD's
351,000?
purpose to make money off of these?
Do we not,
Generate revenue, yeah.
So,
there's a couple, I wanna know, is there, the 2022, like, there wasn't, we didn't make any income?
I just don't have that.
I don't think that's meant to
Okay,
be income.
okay.
I don't think that's.
Oh, I thought, okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was like the interest that was paid, is that, if that's not
No.
right, then I was kinda like, wait, we didn't make any interest?
But
on that.
the loan rates are like 1%, and that's, and Elspeth and I were talking, that might be what we want to do, and that's okay with me, I guess. I was just trying to say, there's a lot of energy and effort that goes into managing this fund. It's valuable to business owners to be able to go fill out a loan application with Michelle and get money quickly. They're not going to a bank, they're not paying a bunch of fees, so let's make more money with this service, but, yeah, that's up to the group.
So currently, it is, we have a minimum rate of 1.5, but with real estate, the rate is 2 points below Wall Street Journal Prime, just with it can't be less than 1.5%, because that's our minimum rate. And then with the, I don't know what the certificates of deposit are, like, I don't recall us, that's something that definitely need to be cleaned up, but those are the real estate when we have, and then it's it was Wall Street Journal Prime for the $25,000 cap, which was like basically the unsecured, or the unsecured loan. So that's what they currently are. Again, our minimum is 1.5, with the rate at either prime or 2 points below prime.
So, yeah, so I guess page 3 here with the different rates. What I tried to do is going back to the revised version. We have here what the program is, use of funds, ineligible product, and then types of loans. We try to just make it like furniture, fixtures, and equipment,
Right.
5 years.
Yep.
Prime plus 1% fixed, unsecured. That's what we get. We don't get real estate loans, really. We don't really get.
We have a few, don't we have several of those?
Our older loan applicants have been,
I've never seen one.
yeah, so.
Yeah,
all the
I've never
loans
seen
that
one
we've
either,
done
but we have
in your
them
time
outstanding.
here Has
Yeah.
been the unsecured, and I don't know why that is, but we haven't had as many come to us for the maximum amount, 75,000, but we do, well, at least three. Three are that, longer-term loan, they got the full amount, but I mean, their interest rate is like 0.75%. So,
I thought the 1.5 was the minimum.
well, I don't think that a minimum was adopted. I think that was adopted after some of these.
Okay.
So they have
Okay.
like, their beginning date was sometime between like 2012, 2016. I
Yeah.
think we adopted that rate. I remember in that meeting, probably 4 years ago, when
Yeah.
Eric was still here.
Okay, good.
And that's when that happened.
Yeah.
Probably, it was
Right.
probably actually during the pandemic, because that's when the rates were so low that
Yeah.
yeah.
You basically, are we paying you now? Because,
Right.
so, yeah, a negative interest rate. Okay, well, okay, good.
So this tiers out separate interest rates for our types of loans. And overall, so yes, it would be across the board increasing the interest rate.
And I do think it's good to have different rates for the different, like, if we have a secured loan, secured with a mortgage, I think it should be less than somebody who's getting a completely unsecured loan. I absolutely believe that. However, I do think that this is one of the incredible benefits that we offer to our property owners and our business owners in the DDD. And as a result of that, I think the interest rates should be low. well, I think we, you know, maybe make, you know, there should be some interest rate because there has to be some skin in the game, more for the business owners than necessarily for us to be, for this to be a big income producer for us. So I like the idea of having a minimum rate, like that we have now. But I think these might be a little bit high, or I don't know, we just stay at prime. I'm just spitballing here, that's my opinion.
I do think that it is something we not give back, but it is a perk to having a business or buying property in downtown, is that you have access to this. So I do think we need to keep it as easy and, but still secure. And I don't think we should try to make a bunch of money off of it. That's my feeling. We're not trying to be a bank. We're not trying to compete with a bank. We're just trying to ensure that businesses and property owners in downtown can get the funds they need to either renovate or increase their business, make their business stronger and better. That's our motivation.
And I think we need to remember that the Downtown Development District is here to support and help the downtown businesses, and I think that would be a hurdle for small business.
It shouldn't be a 1% loan or a 0.75% loan.
No, absolutely, no, I mean, again,
So-
like,
1.5 is the number, right?
Yeah, 1 I mean, that's
1.5.
not where, I get what you're saying, we're not a hedge fund, I agree. But at the same time, like, there's got to be some sort of,
I agree in setting a minimum. We shouldn't, 1.5 seems very reasonable to set as do not go below. If y'all think it needs to be more than that, I'm okay setting a minimum so we don't go down to nothing.
I agree.
Almost nothing. But I just don't think we should increase it too much.
I would like to get some feedback too, maybe as part of our discussion too, from some of the, maybe outstanding, who have outstanding loans, maybe some of the previous ones that have paid them off, just to kind of get their input on, did this, especially the ones that, I don't know that we've had any that have defaulted. I don't know, Michelle, if you know that history, if anyone has ever
No,
defaulted on the loan. Yeah.
I mean, we've denied loan applications.
Sure, right.
From what I can tell from our files. but
Yeah.
I don't believe we've always tried, if someone was behind, we've always tried to take
Sure.
steps to not get to that point.
And maybe that's, one of the things too that we might want to discuss is, do we have a late fee as part of our loan? Like if
So basically, in the application, it says that it's the responsibility of the applicant to add on a late fee. I think it's 25%, no, 5% or $25, whichever is higher. Yes, so that is our current late fee policy. Now, I will also say, John and I we were discussing this program, and, we've had this program for over a decade now, and there are certain things that I would really love to do with the management of this that I haven't quite had the time to do. So whenever we are sending out invoices, we are having to cross-reference information in the administration of this program needs to be worked on, and I haven't had the time to quite get to that point. And all that circles back to, if someone is late, then we put on their invoice that they're responsible to pay, but I haven't quite had the time to go back and cross-reference
If they've
people are
actually
really
paid.
paying the
Sure.
late fee, or if they're just paying the minimum due.
right.
And so I feel until the point where we can incorporate into our workflow a little bit better the management of this loan, I mean, we are trusting in the good faith that they're doing what they're saying and they're paying when it's due, per their invoice. It instructs them to add on a late fee, but, yeah, we're still trying to work all that into our workflow.
Sure, okay, yeah, I was just curious about that. But yeah, so basically just to talk to some of these past, I mean, the ones that currently have notes outstanding or ones that have, paid them off and just kind of get their input. Did this help your business thrive? Could you have done it if the interest rate was, was higher? Just, I don't know. Yeah,
Send a questionnaire.
just get some, feedback on that stuff.
I think we have to
I
be
know it's
careful
obvious.
about the higher question, because they're never gonna answer.
Yeah, that's not the appropriate question.
Yeah,
Good.
but-
could you have, could you have paid,
If
I mean,
it was
could you have
at
paid it?
X
Yeah.
amount, would you see
Could-
it as
yeah.
feasible, or,
Could- yeah.
something?
Because I remember
Yeah,
dealing
I
with
like
some
the
businesses
idea.
that opened here that could not have gotten, maybe they couldn't have gotten a loan from the bank, they couldn't have paid that.
Yeah.
But they're a thriving business, and they, were made it because of
Mm-hmm.
because of the a DDD loan, so I'd be,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't want the rate to overshadow Michelle and I's journey, we're trying to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
of
simple
course.
so that more people can utilize
Take
it.
advantage.
yes,
not-
and you can, it's
And
clearly
on some
simplified,
level,
yeah.
when we started seeing rates at 0.75%, and if you walk to a bank today, you get one at 10%, that just got my attention,
Mm-hmm.
so. But this is a starting place, it's a.
Yeah.
That is significantly different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a, yeah.
I don't,
so,
yeah,
at some point, that's, just be repeating myself at this point, but the rate is, I agree, we don't want to be like a hedge fund or whatever, but it does need to sort of pay for the people.
I mean, I would like to see, I feel like it should be more competitive than a bank. I feel if we're truly offering a service to new and active business owners, that they know that we're a place that they can come, and that our program in itself is designed so that they know that they can come to us first and get a better rate almost. So I think that's kind of my, I guess, like the ethos of like how I feel this program should be conducted. It should be, of course, like, I would not say that we need to be making money off of it, but what ends up happening, all the interest gets circulated back into that fund, so that builds that fund account so that we can loan more out to more business.
absolutely, that's a good point.
So I think it's a balance of being competitive and not just giving away money, and balancing the cushion of, this really propelling their business forward versus, there's always a balance of having skin in the game so that it's taken seriously and actually
Absolutely.
propels their business forward. So
And how would you, so, Michelle, I know you probably haven't been able to keep up with that, and that software was, I know it's not particularly user-friendly, but how much time would you say that you'd spend a month on, dealing with the loan program? Do y'all does the city send out the invoices,
No,
or do you
we
send the
send out
city
the
invoices? So you
invoices.
send those out?
Yes.
You have to review the loan applications, what, how much?
So
if
the
you had to-
loan,
Yes.
getting the loans together in itself, like I got Katie trained on that
Mm-hmm.
process last month, which, you could, the information's everywhere. It was a lot to navigate through. So, one item that I feel would maybe be worth us exploring at some point, since our loan fund is separate from our general fund, if we were wanting to automate our loan processes a little bit more, it might be worth our time to, not that we want to be financially independent from the city, because there's a lot that they do that really helps us that we don't have to wind up paying for.
Right.
But our loan fund may be one that would be in our interest to operate more directly, so that we're able to automate some of those processes in terms of payments, and because we can't take credit card payments for a loan, for example.
Right.
So that's why we send out the invoices. A loan applicant has to either hand deliver or mail us a check. And the accounting department is not allowing us to take credit card payments. I also don't know, I don't know the interest rate that we collect on each loan per month unless I cross-reference their amount with their amortization schedule, which is in a paper document in our filing cabinet. So between our accounting software, our internal spreadsheets, and their paper amortization schedule, I'm having to cross-reference all of those in order to create one invoice and then multiply that by 12 loan applicants. So it takes probably around 5 or 6 hours to do all of the invoices alone, and then most of our applicants send checks in via mail, and it's like automated. Some still bring them to the office, but it would be a lot easier if, I mean, in the banking world, there are systems that do all of that for you.
Yeah, when you said by hand, I was like,
Yeah,
Yes,
amortization schedules, what?
So the amortization schedule that we have, they're paper files. We have no digital ones. It's a headache. It is truly a headache. So it needs,
Even for the most recent ones, like the
even
ones?
for the most recent ones. And so I don't know if that's something that, we work with Bridget Abear to do all of those documents. She gives us the file,
Sure.
the closing happens with them. So maybe that's something that we add on to that package, that we want to see digital versions of those documents so that they're easier to keep up with. But
Do that in an Excel spreadsheet, like that should be something that's,
a formula, like something.
yeah.
yeah, it hurts my head. But I'm just working with what we have, and it's not ideal, and it takes a ton of time.
Yeah.
Well, it leaves room for error
Also, a lot of human error.
too. I'm not saying you would, but just naturally.
Naturally, yeah,
Yeah.
it's numbers, and you're looking at a lot of numbers in different places. It's really all over the place. So, in my attempt to work with Laura to try to figure out how we could bring that process up to the 21st century, she basically said, "Good luck."
Do we use an accounting software like QuickBooks?
We don't. We utilize the city's accounting software, which is called Munis, and we share that system because
So we can't be independent, is what you're saying?
the way that we're structured right now, no.
Okay.
But we could track our own loans, like,
Right. We could.
Yeah.
I would just have to
It'd be
make sure
manual,
that
yeah.
we basically tell Laura that we will give you, like, you do not have to manage this fund. I
Yeah.
think that's her perspective, is that since it's a fund that's still underneath the city's management to a degree with our audit, that she would want to make sure that she signs off on the process. And so whatever that process looks like, I think she would be on board to have us independently handle it, but she would need to know that all
Sure.
the checks and balances are being
Right.
checked throughout.
okay.
Yeah. So I think there are options. With our loan fund, with our general operating fund,
Yeah,
I think
no.
it would be like completely unrealistic to do, but I think there's opportunity with our
Yeah.
loan fund to just see what the other options are.
So, I mean, Michelle, what if we just left the rates as they are? I mean, I'm looking at what's in here,
What's prime now, Evan? What's currently?
8.25. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if we leave them as they are, I guess the one thing that the rate, or I'm sorry, the loan type I've seen most since I've been on the board has been unsecured. What are if someone gets an unsecured loan from us, I don't see the rate defined in here.
Oh, I thought it was 3 plus, is it not?
Is it? I didn't see it.
So all of the rates are, it's just 2 points below the Wall Street prime rate.
No, I'm looking at, that's the,
But
right, that's not
an unsecured isn't
Isn't even
defined.
listed on there.
Yeah, so,
Yeah. Because it has the FF and E as just prime, and then the real estate is 2 below prime, but not, yeah.
so
So you're talking about with our current application?
With
Yeah.
currently what we have in place, yeah.
So none of them have interest rates listed.
Well, it says interest rates will follow a minimum rate of 1.5. Real estate is 2 points below Wall Street Journal prime.
Right. I thought you were saying that underneath each of the different types, there wasn't one listed. Like, that is listed.
I was saying,
as a-
yeah,
For
for an
unsecured $25,000 cap,
It's the same.
it's
That's what?
2, Wall
2
Street Journal
points
prime.
Below the Wall Street prime.
That,
Okay, so,
oh.
Wait a second, hang on.
Yeah, I don't, because there's real estate 2 points below, like in, yeah, FF&E is this equipment or chattel at Wall Street Journal Prime, $25,000 cap. I don't know what the certificates of deposit thing is. Is that like if you have a CD as security? Okay.
Cash.
Okay, well, that makes sense then, 3 points below. But I don't see like an unsecured loan, what the rate is supposed to be.
So, you know, so we could just say leave it, the real estate and equipment. Wall Street Journal Prime, okay, so if equipment is prime, so you leave that the same. Leave real estate the same, 2 points below prime. Certificates of deposit, yeah, I mean, no one's gonna do
Yeah.
that, but I deleted it, but whatever.
Yeah, I would agree.
So if someone today comes to Michelle for a loan secured by equipment, the rate would be the Wall Street Journal Prime. So,
But no less than 1.5%.
right.
Basically, I think what we've done is we've applied the 2 points below Wall Street Journal Prime to all of the loan types. 'Cause, like, that's what has happened. That's what we've done for all the unsecured loans that we've done over the past.
Even more of a reason for us to clean this up.
So,
Because if we don't know what we're doing,
Yeah.
that's all I have.
so on page here with what we're proposing, you could just have what we currently have.
Yep.
Except we need to figure out unsecured.
Yep.
So furniture instead
Is
of prime plus one.
no
that would
less
be prime.
than, yeah, prime no less than 1.5.
Real estate cash, we just put prime, but that could be, what is it, prime minus 2?
2,
And then unsecured, now, if secured by FF&E is prime, unsecured should be higher than prime, right?
Are we wanting
Yes.
any of the rates to be above
Prime plus
prime
one.
or at prime?
Yeah, unsecured could be prime plus 1.
Or unsecured would be prime, and then FF&E could be prime minus 1. I don't know, I don't know.
That makes sense. So real estate prime minus 2, FF&E prime minus 1, unsecured prime.
That's what I think.
But none of them are to go
No
below
less than
1.5.
Correct, yeah.
That's, I mean,
And they're all fixed throughout the term of the,
yeah. Good suggestion.
Do we need to vote on this tonight, or
I
do
don't think
you?
we should. I mean, we probably should wait till the next, I would
Yeah, I
think.
think
Yeah.
there's also some other, there's
Yeah,
still
I'd like
some
to-
things
yeah.
to clean up.
Okay.
We basically made edits per Evan's kind of first read over, but there's still some items in here related to USDA that, I want to take a dive just to see, can we remove these or, additionally, like follow-up, I mean, we ask for, we ask for what the use of the funds will be, but we don't have a follow-up process of seeing, I don't know what the process is with the bank, in terms of follow-up and having that kind of information, but that's not a process that we have. So I would want to make sure that whenever we revise this application, we're also being very clear up front about what our expectations are throughout the life of the loan. And
Yeah.
it's going to take me a little bit more time to wrap my head around that.
It's a really good first step. Clearly needed. Thank you, Evan and Michelle, for your work on this.
it's mostly Michelle, so.
Anything else? Yeah, well, I think we should have that on the next,
Yes,
on the next
yeah, we'll
agenda for sure.
definitely
Okay.
have a revised version.
All right, Design Committee report. Cassie?
Okay, so we basically have 3 things in this binder. The first one is, Michelle has taken, put an outline together of the sidewalk reimbursement program.
Awesome.
So this, we discussed it at the design committee meeting, and we went back and forth on some things, but basically, we decided not to set a cap, because, you know, the second we say we're not going to exceed this, then we might get someone who comes in and does a whole city block, and that would exceed our cap, and then we'd have to scramble and undo it. So, one thing that we might want to discuss at the next meeting is, do we as a board want to, you know, set an amount per year that we budget to it, and then a process to amend it if we go over it? That's just something to think about. We know we've got 3 that potentially could, maybe 1 or 2 could be this year. Probably, they're more likely they might be next year, because I don't think any of those projects have gone out to bid yet, and that would be one of the later things that was done.
There might be 2 fiscal year 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just something to think about. But basically what you have in the packet is just kind of an overview, talks about eligible expenses. That was one of the things that instigated this conversation into looking further, is that, you know, what are we actually paying for? What are we agreeing is part of it and is not part of it? So this outlines material labor cost for the installation of sidewalk, curb, ADA ramp, or other traffic calming measures, landscaping, including shade trees, and then features that align with the design standards. Non-eligible would be design fees and permit fees. The target area is that, so we talked about, you know, until the sidewalks in a certain area are complete, that we focus that program on that area. And once those are complete, then we start going out, you know, a block at a time or half a block at a time, whatever, to get everything the same and updated. And then,
Excuse the typos. I know there are probably a few.
oh, no, you're good. And then there's a process in here too, an application process, so that, and it looks like, Michelle, you have this triggering with when somebody goes to get a building permit. So that would give us quite a bit of heads up
Yeah.
that this is coming along. They'd have to come to the design committee, show what they want to do, and then obviously that would come to the board for approval. And then once everything is bid, we would know what the actual amounts would be that we're agreeing to, and then making sure we have that cooperative endeavor in place with the city. So we don't have to vote on this tonight. This was a draft based on our last design committee meeting, and we have another one of those coming up, so we'll go over it again. And then I would assume that not far after that, we'd be voting on it.
This is a great start. Like, this is, yeah.
Michelle's been a huge help on that.
I think my
Double good
goal
work,
is kind of to have, it would be good to have an application by July, because that's the start of a fiscal year. And I know that 2 of the projects are, they're basically waiting to see if, what we're doing with this program, to see to what extent they're kind of working on those sidewalks. We did review other cities that have reimbursement programs, sidewalk reimbursement programs, and we did explore a lot. Is it square, like a linear foot, or whatever kind of the pricing is? But basically, I think what we settled on was it would continue to be a 3-way equal share for these eligible expenses. And we increased the budget for fiscal year 2024 to $30,000.
So do we need to get this, like, would the city council have to approve this too, or the city council have to sign off on it? Or is it administrative, just?
Cooperative endeavor, they would, and
Yeah.
I guess,
Don't
in
have
the,
one now, or we need to have one, right? We don't
well,
have one.
it'd be one with each one of these projects.
Oh, each, okay.
Yeah.
So we engage in a cooperative endeavor agreement after the fact. So that is a piece of documentation that's on the books for that expenditure.
Okay.
But the thought here is that we're doing a cooperative endeavor agreement before construction.
right.
Basically at the time.
Yeah.
If they have a permit-ready project.
Yes.
And they know as they're building that we are engaging in this three-way share.
Right.
So that we're not hit with the same problems that we've been hit with.
Sure, in the past,
Oh,
right.
someone wants sidewalks, we haven't budgeted for sidewalks, we have to do a whole budget ordinance, and then
Right.
we're not able to appropriately plan for it.
Right.
Well, are the sidewalks technically owned by the city?
Yeah.
It's city property and up until the
They're,
building.
I mean, service.
Yeah, but the owner,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's an improvement to the DDD, though.
There are certain requirements, though, with a project, new construction, that sidewalks are required to be built in. I think if the renovation is up to, I'm not quite sure what the code says, but it says up to a certain amount for renovation, sidewalk improvements would be merited, or if it's new construction, sidewalk improvements are required as a part of the development plan.
I'm not opposed to the program. I think it's a great program. I'm
Yeah.
just inquiring because
Yeah. Well, that's kind of been something that we've talked about too, is like, why do we even have the, it's like, is the city, there's obviously an overall net benefit here, but that was kind of our thought process too, of like, okay, why are, going back to like why we started doing this, basically, and those conversations kind of come up again.
This is, yeah, so what we're doing is to keep it from being the minimum, just concrete, move on, this is to add landscaping, to add the brick, to make it,
Pedestrian friendly.
yeah. And this also, we're talking about when somebody has a corner is to add the traffic calming measures.
Right.
And this would help do that as well, so, which we need in downtown.
Yeah. Sure.
So, okay, so no, we don't need to vote on that tonight. If anybody has any input, please don't hesitate to let me know, and we'll discuss it at the next design committee meeting, and then obviously at the next board meeting too. The next thing you have is a facade grant for 104 Southwest Railroad Avenue. The committee reviewed this, and everything is in here that is required, and we recommend approval of this facade grant in the amount of $2,000.
Any discussion?
I make a motion, we approve.
A second.
Todd DeLon,
yes.
John Exnicius, Elizabeth Hollywood,
Yes.
Chelsea Kesnick,
Yes.
Haley Norton,
Yes.
Cassie Reagan,
Yes.
Evan Singer.
Yes.
All right, the next one is a facade grant for 109 West Thomas Street. Again, everything is in here. The committee reviewed it, and we believe it's in compliance and recommend approval in the amount of $2,000.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll
Second.
second.
Todd DeLon,
Yes.
John Exnicius, Elizabeth Hollywood.
Yes.
Chelsea Kesnick,
Yes.
Haley Norton, Cassie Reagan,
Yes.
Evan Singer.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Cassie.
Can I ask one related question real quick? Board members of the DDD are not eligible for side grants?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm resigning. No, I'm just kidding.
We can't pay you till 2
facade
years
grants,
after your
yes.
service.
You-
December, I'll do it in December.
You can get a
Wait,
lot
it's,
of,
oh, I want to swap, you said 2 years after?
Yes, actually,
Okay,
we
that's
should,
good, yeah.
I would like to note that it should be a little more clear when you join the board of all these things you're giving up before you join the board, because it was quite a surprise to me.
Yeah.
We can do, we've looked at, I know we've done it in the past, but like when we talk about at our orientation, the conflict of interest statement that we sign, like kind of lay out, this is what this means, like these are some of the things that we.
We're just not all attorneys, so.
Yeah. Well, I'll just
mean-
make sure that Andre focuses on that a little bit
That's,
more.
yeah.
why couldn't
I don't understand the 2
you
years
apply
after.
for the facade
honestly.
grant? I mean,
2 years
Just not
after
vote on
you
it.
served,
Charter.
2 years?
I'm okay with that. I'd love to apply.
Government Code of Ethics.
I don't understand the 2
stipulates
years, yeah.
That this body is a public body, so you all are public servants public officials, basically, even though you're not elected, you're still nominated your public officials. So the government code of ethics stipulates that no exchange of economic interest or economic value can occur between the organization and its board members. So, and that is for two or board members' family members, immediate family members.
Oh, God.
So, and then that is 2 years, effective 2 years after the service that is performed.
It's only $2,000, it'll be okay. I did read that, though.
I think it says senior. Oh, yeah, I think there was senior, right? Is that who just said that?
That's his dad and his uncle.
Yep, okay, just checking.
It's not to John.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Because right after that, I was like, oh.
They're, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
okay.
both his father and his uncle.
Okay, events committee report. Chelsea?
Yes, okay. So Michelle and I met yesterday with the chief of police. Just kind of gave a rundown. I know you kind of led that conversation with him. Do you want to give a summary of that one and then?
Yeah. So since we're changing the event pretty significantly, I kind of felt that it would probably be in our best interest to see how those changes would affect our police department, since they commit a lot of energy to and resources to this event. And just generally, their safety considerations that we should take into mind as we're restructuring things. So it was very enlightening for me, because I am not sure to what extent we've done that in the past. And so he really appreciated us coming to him months in advance and looping them in, and just generally having more direct communication with them, so that we're all on the same page about what the event looks like and our scope and how we're accommodating their needs too as their officers, you know, to feed them, which I'll get to in a little bit. But we went over our idea to basically redirect our attractions for the event on blocks of Charles between Kate Square Park and Cherry. So you'll kind of see a map here. We didn't present this to him, but we went through all this discussion with him about traffic flow, street closures, you know, ultimately just telling him that we're nixing all the parking mall closures, that we'll be focusing our street closures to Charles. And given that most of the wine walk stops though would be on Thomas, if he still felt that they needed to close the parking on Thomas. And so it seemed like with our conversation that it would not be something that we would have to do, that we can just, if this is, we can see how this goes, and try to redirect and spread people out a little bit more with this plan that we kind of have here. And you can kind of see just like a type up with everything here, but between him, Edwin, Wayne Civic, and their assistant Stephanie, we met with all three of them, and we were able to get, I think, in a really good place to just understand how we can better execute this event together ultimately. So something that they requested was us to submit a boundary map to them, which is why you kind of see the map that we have in front of you is basically what they've requested of us about 3 months in advance of any large event of this scale. So we'll be working that into our workflow. So with that, we kind of had to, Chelsea and I met today, actually. We kind of tried to narrow down like our run of show and getting, we have some other updates too, but talking about the committee, recruiting some people. That way the DD's efforts are more or less focused on some of the like safety logistics and larger planning aspects, but mostly the marketing. And we're really trying to spread the work out a little bit more so it's not a heavy lift for us. So
Can we jump in on run of events?
Yeah. Why don't you-
Okay. Okay, so run of events, we're thinking, 8 to 12, this already happens naturally, but we'll do the farmer's market. 12 to 4, we won't have any scheduled activities. This is, mostly due to how hot it is during August. We also talked about kicking off the Lion Palooza, which would march down Charles into Kate Square. And, for me, I never knew we actually did that. So we were kind of talking about like how we could get the community more involved. So I had the idea of doing kind of like a second line to Kate Square Park. We'd, kind of kick everything off there. They'd do a pep rally, Battle of the Bands type thing. At 5, they would start the big band. That would go until 8. While all of that was happening, we'd also have the wine walk registration at Railroad Park. We'd have music at Railroad from 4 till 6. And then kind of looping in the Discovery Center, we'd have like a kids zone, but then have music at there's a like vacant grass area there. So kind of have another stage there just to kind of keep traffic flowing all over downtown, but also giving people like things to do. At the park, we talked about doing like a beer booth, something, not necessarily food tents, because again, we're trying to promote like our downtown businesses. And then everything would kind of wrap up at 8. We figured the wine walk would end at 7. People would go to the park, listen to that last hour of music, and then from there, whoever wanted to participate further could have music later, drink specials, whatever it would be. I think that covers the run of show. The car show, I missed that detail. We also talked about doing a car show on Charles, 1 block past La Creta. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like programming for the closures. So,
Yeah.
I think, trying to figure out the best way to say this. We like talked about attractions being a part of the event and what kind of makes the most sense. And since we have landed on kind of moving the corridor onto that Charles area, it would be nice to have something for people to do. So like, I think it would make sense to kind of program that. And with our proposed like committee progress, we have a lot of exciting progress, I think, with that to make it more organizations involved. So we're still awaiting a firm approval from the Art Center, but I did meet with Melissa and they would be willing to take on the coordination of the wine walk.
Oh, awesome.
And so they're actually meeting with their board this evening, so we had the same meeting, but their executive committee so far thought it was a good idea. Basically, it'll wind up being their fundraiser. And so we would still host the check-in in Railroad Park, but they would be coordinating all the sales. We would obviously cross-promote on our website, socials and whatnot, but it would basically wind up being a fundraiser for the Regional Arts Center. And we're all willing to test out this year to see how it goes.
Yeah. And I do want to make an important note too. We are moving the traffic to be on Charles, but given that it's being taken away from Thomas, the the wine walk stops are mostly on Thomas. So that traffic will still be there. It's just a matter of kind of thinning the crowd out and
Evening it out a
dispersing.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And then Chelsea kind of just said that the Discovery Center could take the lead on the kids zone. But I think
work on that.
between
Yeah.
the Discovery Center and then we have some businesses over on that side that usually we've closed down Cypress to be the kids zone, but we can just redirect that to kind of be that stretch versus Cypress. Lion-Palooza, we always have Southeastern on board to help with that. Lindsay Owens with Southeastern Athletics. One thing that Chief Bergeron mentioned is that at their other events, if they have officers on site, they'll usually have a hospitality lead where a big concern that was mentioned, related to food trucks was if the food trucks weren't there, the officers wouldn't have eaten. But if we have someone on our committee that kind of can have a golf cart and just take food around to them and thank them for their service. That would be ideal, so that they're able to still, because they're working 12 hours basically that day. So if we try to do our best to address that issue, if we're not having food trucks, I still want to get to incentivizing our restaurant owners to do more quick service, a limited menu, seeing what's feasible for them. But potentially that's one way to kind of address that issue with keeping them fed. And
Can I ask, when we did have the food trucks, what was the stipulation of them being, did they pay a vendor fee? Like, what was the agreement?
so we basically created an application, was open to any food truck. I don't know if at the time we advertised how many spots were available, but standard kind of application. The fee last year, it was probably $150 or $200. I can't quite remember, but per spot.
So the reason I ask is because in marinating on the food truck thing, and then I also proposed this question a while back to the DDD because about pop-ups in general. We don't charge, if a business wants to host a pop-up, they don't have to charge for that.
No.
So I personally, why don't the same rules apply to if we have food trucks as pop-up businesses? Because it's, I mean, we're looking at restaurants, but I'm a photographer. If another photographer that is not a member of the DDD and doesn't pay rent and all these things, they can pop up and not pay any fee and have their business in downtown. And the same applies for boutiques and stuff like that. And I mean, we've all seen them and done it, but how is it different than the food trucks, I guess is my question, in terms of a business perspective?
Well, we're not trying to have food trucks or businesses from outside of the
Well,
DDD.
what I was told by DDD staff was that outside businesses are welcomed and it's no charge and they are welcome
Pop up where? Like just in front of?
inside of other businesses.
So usually
Like-
what?
Oh,
I don't think we
inside?
can monitor if
Like
somebody
if I
else-
wanted to let
Yeah, if you wanted to have some,
let-
yeah.
an artist pop up in Ruby, yeah, they don't have to pay to do that. I mean,
Well, that's her
that would be
decision as
between
a
me and the
business, yeah.
artist if I was gonna collect a % off of what they
Okay,
made
I was just
that night.
questioning how it was different, but
If it's
clarified it.
inside a
Yeah, if it's
business,
in-
we don't have any control over that.
Yeah, I don't think we have any authority over what someone else does inside their own business.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
But what about, so where y'all have the car show outlined, what if, and I don't know, look, I know how hard it is to get extra people to work anytime for anything right now, much less the people you need just to run your business, but what if the downtown restaurants and bars were offered the opportunity and that stretch, because if we're trying to funnel people from downtown, down Charles Street into Kate Square, we're not going to have food in Kate Square, and we don't want to compete with our downtown businesses. What if we offered them that block to set up a pop-up?
Yeah.
Set up a booth,
Yeah.
bring
I
in.
was kind of
You
thinking.
have to do that. If you're removing food trucks,
Yeah.
you have
Well,
to do
we
that.
talked about, like, one idea I had, which again, it's just grandiose, but for Mariners, I talked about maybe having like a delivery person on hand that evening to where they call, they place a to-go order, and then they deliver it to Kate Square.
Or if you had a table with Mariners,
Yeah.
and they'd come pick it up at your table.
I told Michelle this. We tried it at Picnic in the Park. We did pasta salads. The problem we ran into is that people thought it was free.
Oh,
And so they were like, oh, I'll take one. And then we were having to be like, no, sorry, you have to pay us. And so it was kind of like awkward and
Well, speaking from our past experiences with Hot August Night, we just don't have the staff.
yeah.
Because, Hot
That's-
August Night used to be such a more concentrated event that it was super, super busy in that short period of time. And we literally put everybody on staff.
yeah.
So from our perspective, I mean, I know it's going to be spread out a little more this year, and it might work better that way, but But we
I
just
also-
never could.
Yeah,
we
I mean,
never
I
could
also
do
told
anything other than
Michelle.
Be a bar.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I also told Michelle, people are gonna go where they wanna go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is.
So if the restaurants, just clarify for me, if they're understaffed, and why can't we bring food trucks in if we don't have enough capacity to serve
That's-
everyone?
I agree.
We got, I mean, y'all saw the meeting last year.
Yeah.
It was,
So from my perspective, we are gonna need to bring in some beverage booths.
We've
No
never
doubt
had
about
food
that.
trucks before, though. Like, that's a very new thing.
And I
They
would
had
like to,
Carnival kind of stuff. They had, like, they closed Kate Square, Kate Street in years past, down by Paris Parker, and they had funnel cakes, and they had that kind of stuff. But still, you're competing with, I think if we are going to do anything that's going to compete with anybody downtown, there needs to be full disclosure, like soon. And if it's, give them the opportunity, we're setting up an area where we're going to have we're going to have food and beverage where you don't have to go in and wait in line in a restaurant or have a reservation or whatever. Would you like to have a pop-up area?
yeah.
like, give the restaurant
Give,
first choice.
give them first priority, or,
Yeah.
first right of refusal. And, but I just think we have to be super clear. It's got to be out there. They've got to, every single restaurant needs to be told that it's going to happen, because y'all, I'm not sitting through that again.
Neither.
So here's my thoughts in approaching this. Chelsea and I kind of talked about this today. We want to assess basically the capacity for our restaurants in a more realistic way. So, when we had all that feedback, obviously the event went different because of weather. I mean, it rained. The crowd may have not been as much as we wanted. Some people were saying they had like 90-minute waits, but really what we saw in the survey was that people had less than 30-minute waits. And so is it a problem of they don't have the capacity to cook the food fast enough, or they don't have seating capacity? If they don't have seating capacity, maybe we can do other like pop-up like sidewalk cafes, or we can try to assess to see what their options are to do a to-go or quicker service option. And if they ultimately are like, we don't have the staff, we can't do that, or whatever reason, then we say, okay, well, given this feedback that we've gotten from you, in order for us to responsibly host this event, we're gonna need to offer some other options to all the people coming into town.
Well, we have to remember too, we're changing the night, we're
Yeah.
changing the format. It may not be mass chaos like it has been in the past. You may not have the weights that they've had in the past. But I do agree, we need to, I like what you said.
Yeah.
Let them know this is what we're doing, and go from there. It's probably staff, and I know y'all hate hearing that,
No, but I think it's.
if you don't,
it
if
is-
you,
yeah.
a restaurant might have 20 tables, but only have staff to cover 10 right now. And that's not necessarily going to change.
How many food trucks did we have at the last August nights? Did anyone count, like, how many? It felt like there's a lot.
11.
Could we limit that and charge them more or some, like some middle ground, like instead of 11, just have like 4, and they pay whatever the 11 paid or something?
Yeah, I mean, when we assess, I guess, what our restaurants are able to do, if we find we do need to bring in food trucks, then, I know that there are several downtown businesses that do have mobile operations, and if we would have to basically come up with some criteria to say, this is what we're looking for, if we limit it to 4 or whatever the metric that we're kind of looking at, I would just want to put some parameters around
Sure.
it, so that we don't do what we did last year.
Yeah, I'm just saying, maybe it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There might be some middle ground.
Yeah.
Well, I think the key, though, is that let's run it this year and see what happens. Let's run it without food trucks. And if you do a beer booth, it doesn't bother me because I don't sell Bud, Coors, or Miller, but
Yeah.
everybody else does, so it might bother somebody else besides me. So I say we just run it with our city and let people be attracted to downtown Hammond and see if we can support
My
the event
general-
without external
yeah.
input.
My general thinking is, again, people are gonna get beer or wine or whatever, the closest place they're at. If the idea is they're moving, they're gonna go.
More than one place.
Yeah, which is, my goal of this event. You wanna keep them moving so they're hitting different places. I do have a question though. If we open the door for downtown restaurants to do a pop-up food tent, say we don't do that, but say there's a person who's walking, selling, I don't know, chicken tenders. Is there like a special license for that? Or is that something that's doable?
I mean, given that it's our event, they would, more than likely, if someone's walking around.
Not if they
selling
run my
chicken
business,
tenders-
they could do it for free.
Well, I feel like if someone was walking around selling chicken tenders, then if we didn't know about it, then we would say like, do you have a permit? Did you secure a permit with the city to do this? Because
But
they're
I'm
on
saying a
public street.
restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, if we made that an option, then we say like, a chicken tender cart by whomever is
Yeah.
gonna be like strolling about. I think that there are options that we could look at, like with trying to encourage some of our downtown restaurants to be, to adapt to see if they're able to do it. I would rather look at that first, but I do totally get that it may wind up for us to need to bring in some food trucks so that we're able to feed people.
I like your idea.
Fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Fly
Let's
by
see
the
what happens.
seat, do it without it.
Throw it at the wall, see what sticks. That's-
People are gonna eat. I
They're gonna
mean, they're gonna come, if they can't get a seat, they're gonna go,
They'll wait, or they'll come back.
or they'll come back, or they'll drive away and go home for the night. I mean,
And then the pop-up thing's a great idea, but also you gotta think in terms of the restaurant or bar owner. Now they have to have a POS system unless they're taking just
Yeah.
cash. Then they need Wi-Fi to power their POS system. They need power to, so it's a big logistic nightmare to do other than what you do on Hot August night. It really is, yeah.
Well, we will have to incorporate an area for some pop-up businesses. Like we have, TARC usually does a tent, like our nonprofits are in the district, if they want to be a part of the event, but they're not in a walkable area
That's all
for the
very
event, then we will have a section for those types of things, but we're not selling
Right.
vendor spaces at all. So if someone, as a part of their open house, if they want to work with an artist or another business, like, as we discussed, that is up to them, however they want to plan that. But we are not selling vendor spots, and I guess we'll assess, I would like to just assess our restaurant's capacity first before we make a final determination of no food trucks. That's just my personal.
Yeah, I think we made a huge change for the better with this layout and this program for this
Yeah, I think it's
year.
gonna be
Yeah.
great.
And I think we just need to run with it and see what happens, honestly. That's my humble yet semi-professional opinion.
All right. Anything else on,
do,
Vince Committee?
question, because I know we have to turn the boundaries in.
Yes.
Should we get like a sign off on that part, or?
As, I guess with the map presented, if everyone is okay with what we have so far, the reason why the boundaries are towards Cypress, Morris, Magnolia, and Robert is because it's more than likely that Main Street Dance has been like one of our last wine walk stops. I mean, Stoa Group has participated, but sometimes they wind up being a pop-up. They rather do a tent. So that's like the farthest one on this like southeast corner is Main Street Dance for a wine walk stop, and they would want boundaries for all event activity. But all of our planned programmed events would be obviously between Magnolia and Cypress along Charles. That's why this like event boundaries is larger than that section.
It's good. We don't need to vote or anything on that, but
No. Just as long as
good.
there's not
Yeah.
any issues with that.
it's good.
So we are gonna meet with, I'm gonna send an email tomorrow. Hopefully people are still available. It's kind of last minute, but, getting some of our retail and professional services folks, just to run this by them before we launch anything and announce it. We do plan to launch a save the date and kind of update our website by Wednesday the 31st. And then both Chelsea and I are looking to convene this committee, which you can kind of see some of those other roles there, to have a meeting in June.
Good work. All right, hiring for farmer's market manager position.
So, we have gone through the process. We, as in me and John and I. We did 2 rounds of in-person interviews, and unfortunately, we're not able to locate someone that we felt would be. We want to see what else is out there, I guess. And so, I was hoping John would be here to kind of give his take on it because
Yeah, and he did call me and kind of fill me in and thought that, you know, certainly this is something, we don't want to hire someone that we don't think could handle the position, and then we're in the same position that we are now 6 months from now. So his opinion was that he thought, he would agree, he completely agrees that there just wasn't anybody that he thought could take on this position. So that we should keep the application open for another 60 days.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll open applications back up and we'll just say until a suitable candidate is found. Just so we don't have to continue the
Open and
advertising
close.
process. So, all of that to say, if you know anyone that would be a good candidate, I am really looking forward to passing the baton off to someone else, and sooner than later.
Yeah.
It is, we love the market, but it is a consistent scope of work. You know, it's constant. So, looking forward to transitioning that sooner than later. So if you know anyone, please let me know. Staff report, we'll make this quick. We do have some interns starting, graphic design and farmers market communication for our summer set of interns. There's some updates for Redwood Park. Bricks are installed. We're in the process of ordering the benches. The design committee is going to review our outdoor furniture options in June, so we can make some selections about what's best to have for the courtyard furniture. Electricity. Cassie, I need to maybe text you and just see. I know when we last spoke about it, I haven't had a chance to circle back to the contractors, but in the process of selecting one. Our history exhibit project has taken a significant portion of my time. We do have the panels on display, and we are partnering with the Historic District this month for National Preservation Month, and the draft panels are on display in our office until May 31st. So between our work group, we're trying to make sure people know what these panels say before we finally print them. All final presentations and approvals will happen in July, so we're just trying to do our due diligence of these things don't say anything surprising. They're factually and historically accurate, but also trying to be inclusive to our history that we don't have as much information about. So feel free to go take a look at them if you'd like. Picnic in the park, we have our Green and Gold Night with Southeastern Alumni Association next Friday, May 26th. And then we had to reschedule our April concert twice due to weather. So we are hosting a picnic in the park in June, which will be an experiment. We've never done one in the summer, but I feel like it will be fun. It'll be hot, but I feel like it will be fun. Some professional development I'm involved in right now. It's been very interesting, the people who have asked us to join projects. The Walkability Action Institute is actually a work group that we have the parish engineer involved on and the parish community director. And so we're actually taking a look there's kind of a lot here, but we're taking a look at our metropolitan transportation plan through our regional planning commission to try to align some funding for these infrastructure projects and walkability and bikeability that we've talked about for complete streets in our master plan. And getting some synergy with that and trying to loop in the city planning department too, so that we're all on the same page. if anyone has more questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. Also joined Louisiana Walking College by request, which is all related to similar work, putting investments into our infrastructure so that we have more walkability. Both of these are groups that we can network and see what additional funding is out there to invest in our infrastructure so that we're kind of building better. Main Street items, we participated in the Day at the Capitol on May 2nd, and we'll be participating in Destination Downtown in September, presenting some of our best practices and our successes. And then just additional items here. I did follow up with North Oaks for our annual sponsorship package, so we will see they needed that in terms of their financing and budgeting for the fiscal year, so we'll see what they have to say about that. I think we finally have concluded the plumbing saga at the office. It is being repaired right now by the city. Basically, there was a crushed waste line underneath the sidewalk that was creating, well, I think there's multiple issues, but it seems like that is the last issue. So it's being repaired now. The restrooms have been closed for about a week and a half. So we have portable restrooms in Railroad Park right now for the purposes of the farmer's market. And hopefully by Friday that will be cleaned up and that sidewalk will be back open. Obviously, we've already talked about food trucks, but the city council adopted the food truck ordinance where they're not permitted to sell within the district unless they have an event permit or waiver. I do try to keep tabs on the things that the city council is doing. They never asked us for our input on that ordinance, but they basically made the decision to exclude the DDD from being a place where food trucks are able to operate. They never asked for our input or for us to look at it, but since it excludes the DDD, I felt it was important to bring it to your attention. And then just other items in the works. Yesterday, last year, was whenever we accepted the GAMSA, Great American Main Street Award, so we're going to try to do some anniversary celebratory posts related to that, and then you can kind of see some of our marketing and advertising things that we have in the works. Next meeting, I'd like for us to look at our annual advertising scope and take a look at some of our billboard locations, or maybe I could just work with one of y'all on that if you're interested, but trying to figure out how we can best maximize that contract that we have with Lamar, because we do pay them $900 a month. So that is basically everything for our staff report.
Anything else from anyone? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Okay.